Welcome everyone to my channel and to this video blog. Today we will talk about the wingman from hell. And I would like to turn to the Bible and read a verse out of Matthew 23 for you. And that is the chapter where Jesus minces no words as he addresses the Pharisees and the scribes. Today we'll look at verse 15. Alas for you, scribes and Pharisees, charlatans, because you travel all about the sea and the dry land to make one proselyte, and when it is done, you make him twice as much a son of Hinnom's Vale as you yourselves. This is the translation by David Bentley Hart. He is a professor of theology and has recently published this. I appreciate it for many reasons, and in your translation, you might find, instead of proselyte, a friend of the Jews. That's what it means, a person that is acceptable to a Jews because they keep all the same rules, they do the same hygiene, and they're probably also circumcised and whatnot. And instead of son of Hinnom's Vale, you probably read a son of hell in your translation. So let me read this again. Alas for you, scribes and Pharisees, charlatans, because you travel all about the sea and the dry land to make one proselyte, and when it is done, you make him twice as much a son of Hinnom's Vale as you yourselves. Hinnom's Vale is an actual place on earth. Turns out hell is a place on earth. Hinnom's Vale, when you hear Jesus use the word hell, for the very most part, he is talking about Gehenna or Hinnom's Vale. Those are the words that are used in the original transcripts or manuscripts that are used to translate the Bible. Is a dumpster outside of Jerusalem where they burn trash all day long and all night long. So there's fire, and it's very nasty. So maybe that's where we got this whole idea with hell being fire and whatnot from. So for some reason it's translated as hell. I want to recommend to you, if you haven't yet listened to the interview that I did with Brian Zahnd. I think it starts out right away where he is explaining this whole hell thing, and it's wonderful. It's very helpful. So Jesus is calling people sons of Hinnom's Vale, and that's the dumpster, sons of the dumpster. So guess what the sons of the dumpsters have on their mind? A lot of garbage. And to say it in more words that Christians recognize, they have a lot of hell on their mind. And that's why in their mind, only a very few people go to heaven and a whole lot of people go to hell. And for some reason, they know who goes where. And a wingman, that's my topic here today with this verse in mind, is the man that helps the main dude accomplish his evil scheme. So like the Pharisees and the scribes, they're looking all over to find this friend of theirs that they can then turn into even a worse agent than themselves. So the wingman, in my case, is the co-leader, and it's a bromance, you know? It's like, it's almost beautiful. It happens once in a lifetime. These two, my main leader here of my former cult, and the co-leader, they found each other. Once in a lifetime connection, and they get each other. And the wingman has a lot of power. Without the wingman, the main schemer wouldn't be able to get his scheme across. You know, they need each other. They need each other. The one is clearly the brain, and the other is clearly the muscle. And so that was what it was like with the cult that I escaped, thankfully, got kicked out of, which opened my eyes. So here is what we read, that when they have found each other, which doesn't happen often, you know, they have to travel all about the sea and the dry land to make one friend of themselves, and then they turn them very nastier than themselves. Here's an example. So the main leader got a lot of money from at least 2 women. I know sort of who is still in the group. It's not a lot of people, and I know most of them are not able to give a lot of money, but these 2 ladies, they took on extra jobs. They didn't have families, so that they could give more, and giving a lot they did. So the main leader wanted more money, more. Dumpster is hungry. So the wingman, the co-leader, got to enforce the fact that the main leader convinced the wingman that he needed more money. So that's the scheme. We need more money for me, for my thing, so that I can do what God is calling me to do. You make sure that happens. So one of the ladies raised the issue. It's winter. I can't afford to buy a winter coat. And the wingman, the co-leader, says to her, aren't you glad that you can buy a winter coat, but you're not going to hell? And she said to that, yeah, I guess you're right. And all this was witnessed by my friend, who's now out of the group and just has one awful tale after the other. Wrap your minds around that. There's someone who gets the audacity to tell someone else who has no power anymore with a straight face that it's okay that they don't get to be warm in the winter, because at least they're not going to hell. Is that twice the son of hell that my main leader is? I don't know. It's evil. It is just so evil. And maybe the more evil part is that he isn't even benefiting from that behavior. He's only supporting this man whom he holds so dearly, who is the next thing to Jesus. He might be Jesus to this man, to this wingman from hell. So here's the question I'd like to pose to myself, because when I go around using the Bible to call people by names, I should also use the same measurement for myself. When I was in the cult and I recognized the kind of leadership that they were, the culture, the leadership that was applied, I did not like it. Okay, so I witnessed it. I got it for myself, like the behavior that I just described with the wingman. But I, for the very most part of the group, was not able to treat others that way. Now, am I excusing myself? No. I'm just saying that the main leader and the co-leader, both of them were not able to extinguish my conscience. For instance, I had met a guy in a meeting, and it was incredible. I had given a prophetic word, and it was about him apparently. So he came to me after the meeting. He was like, he'd like to talk more and pray. And so we did that, and the co-leader was there too. And it was an amazing prayer. That was at the beginning of the group, when it just felt like, I'm growing here spiritually. I'm turning into a more powerful person. That in itself is a problem that I didn't recognize back then. But that was still the honeymoon phase. And eventually, when I went to America then for the summer, when I came back, that man was not with the group anymore. And I ran into him in the bus. And he told me why he wasn't with the group anymore. And he said that they see the devil everywhere, that they see hell everywhere. And I wasn't agreeing with what he was saying. Of course, I knew what he was talking about, but I was thinking, because I was raised as a Baptist kid, and they weren't able to make me powerful. They weren't able to make me feel like God is, I have him on speed dial. But my leaders were. So I recognized that I liked what they were doing because it was serving me well. But this guy, who I thought we had blessed so greatly by this prayer and who the leaders wanted to now raise up, he didn't like it. And so what I could have done is I could have defended the cult leaders. I could have said, you know, you're going back like a dog goes back to eat the vomit. You know, like that's a Bible verse. But there was something inside of me that was like, that man has all the freedom in the world to do what he sees fit. And I didn't say a word, but okay. Hope to see you again. I never saw him again. I hope he's okay. But see how clearly he could identify their DNA. And I couldn't, because I had hell on my mind too. I had trash on my mind. I wanted to be great. I wanted to be super special. I wanted God to consider me, you know, one of his gold star workers here on the planet. And that made me vulnerable to become a victim of, that kind of a thing. And, you know, that's kind of the talk end that I want to leave you with, this question of reflection. Victim, I said victim, you know, I do believe that the main leader, he must be some kind of a victim. I can't identify what it was. I know that he was in Wingman in Germany for a while, and I'm aware that there's a lot of people who are sharing their stories of great physical, spiritual, and even sexual abuse that they experienced in YWAM. But the way he talked about YWAM when I was in the group, it made it pretty clear that they were trying to get him to be obedient to their whole idea of, you know, leadership. You submit to your leadership as to God, but it didn't quite work. So I feel like he learned this whole thing of you listen to your leaders as if they were God, and if you don't, you're disobedient and you can leave. That pattern he learned in YWAM, but I don't think he is a victim of YWAM just because of his personality. I cannot tell you where it all stems from. I don't want to blame his parents. I do not know. There's something about him that is just so narcissistic. No clue where it's coming from. But I can only assume he must be a victim of some sort because he didn't invent evil. And so it is with his wingman. That perfect fit, you know? The fact that this co-leader was able to turn off his conscience. That reeks of, he must have had some kind of severe trauma in his own mind to be able to receive so much evil and to dish it out and pass it on further, you know? And I know that the co-leader struggled with it in the beginning, because for me in the beginning with them, the co-leader and I were actually quite friendly and talked a lot. And so he told me that he used to struggle with what he was told to do, you know, break up with your girlfriend and show up when I tell you to show up, all that stuff. But something changed and he just received it all. So he is a victim. He is a perpetrator, he's a predator, but he is also a victim. And I have to give that to people, that when they are even evil, and I have a hard time seeing anything redemptive about their behavior, they are victims. And they're perpetrating evil because that's what they have received. They have received hell. They have received the dumpster that's on fire. They have swallowed that. That's now at work inside of them. And what else are they going to be able to dish out but that? So I feel sorry for them. And I, in the group, this is the reflective question I want to leave you with, had my moments of clarity where I realized I am not turning into a better person under this leadership. I'm actually turning very judgmental. I'm turning God into this small thing we have in a box. And heaven is this place that is huge, but for some reason only a handful are going to be there for all eternity, and everyone else is going to hell. Too bad. Billions and billions and billions of human souls lost because they didn't follow the way of my cult leader. I had my moments of clarity where I realized, I don't know if I'm turning into a better person here. But certainly this has happened for me the past 10 years, that I'm asking myself, and I'm looking at the people that call themselves Christians in America and in the world. Are you a more loving person? Am I a more loving person because of claiming that the Holy Spirit is at work in me? Am I a person that loves the law? Or am I a person that loves love, mercy, grace, goodness, hope? All these character traits of our God that is love, and we become what we worship. I worship a God, I behold a God that I believe is perfect love, and that is how I measure myself, and that is how I measure other people. Not that it matters what I measure, you know. I'm not in love with my opinions or my conclusions about people. What is important to me is that faith, our Christian faith, doesn't become our excuse for turning into sons of hell and daughters and wingmen and everything in between. Do not let them turn you into an ambassador of hell in the name of Jesus. And I think you do that by keeping a good close eye on your conscience, on your gut, asking yourself, is this love? You know, is this my understanding of love, or do I actually have to bend out of shape to call this love? Okay, with all that, kind of a heavy note, I want to leave you for today and bless you abundantly and say see you next time. Goodbye.